Yeah, and number 51, it's The Wedding Singer. Welcome to Long Play Video. Well, welcome to Long Play Video, to episode 50 of of going through my list of 100 favorite films. Somehow we're not on number 50, which just bothers me beyond
You gotta
everything.
get past this. Yeah.
Somehow we're still on number 51. Although, funnily enough, we've already got number 50 because Malcolm X moved down to number 50. So
Okay, yeah.
that kind of that works out. So yeah, top 50, bottom 50, I guess, of my favorite films of all time, complete. At number 51 for episode 50, still just bothers me. But at number 51 is The Wedding Singer. Surely, I mean, if all those weeks ago we started and Limitless, you said, was a top 5 movie, surely The Wedding Singer is a top 3 movie for you with the 80s theme.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. It should be super high, isn't it? But I don't even make my top 100, actually. So I mean, we'll get into it. It's not that I don't dislike Adam Sandler, but I don't find him super funny. Like, he's watchable. And I think Wedding Singer and is it Happy Gilmore? Is that the golf one?
Yeah.
They're the two. I think they're my two favorite films that he's done. Obviously, they're the early ones. But I don't know. Maybe I'm changing. I started watching a bit of Don't Mess with Zohan, and that was actually watchable. That wasn't bad. So yeah, but you're right. I mean, this should be. I mean, it's got like 80s vibes everywhere around this, so it should be right at the top of my list. So yeah. But what about you?
No,
Why is it number 51 for you?
Yeah, no. So it's funny. Like, I wasn't. I mean, I think maybe the kids or for people new to movies don't really understand like how much Adam Sandler like burst onto the scene. Like he really was sort of something very different, I think, to any other comedian that was out there. I think it was sort of almost sort of the first time, probably since sort of the 80s, where obviously the Saturday Night Live sort of route to being a movie star had really gone from kind of, the Eddie Murphys and the sort of Chevy Chase and sort of crew from there. It just didn't feel like it had happened that much in kind of the early 90s. So then, like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore came out. And to be honest, like he was huge, but actually I didn't really like him all that much. Like the sort of the angry man, kind of, the sort of stuff that he would do. Like even kind of The Waterboy, which came out, around sort of the same time. It's pretty, it's just not ever so much my humor. Like it's fine, but I'm
it's
not
sort
a
of
big
lowest
fan.
common denominator, really, isn't it? Is that that's how I feel about it.
It's right. I mean, it's almost sort of Chaplin-esque in the sort of, it's very slapstick, very sort of almost not primal and so like I remember this coming out and being at uni and then I like just not going to the cinema to watch it, and then I sort of have a memory in my head of going into the video shop and seeing like 30 versions, 30 videos or 30 DVDs all kind of stacked together, like just dominating every other film in there. So we got it out, and just remember just absolutely loving it the first time, just thinking it was so funny. He's obviously playing a different character with a couple of elements of his usual character, but just sort of so funny that then we would almost sort of rent it out every couple of weeks. I bought the double album with all of the 80s songs and stuff on it. And just remember sort of, again, because it used to be at the time when even renting the DVD, it wouldn't then be available to buy for ages. So if you wanted to watch it, you had to sort of rent it. You just had to rent it each time because there'd be another 5 months before you could actually buy it. So we must have got it out like 3 or 4 times. Just because, it's really funny. It's really sweet. I would say in my mind, and I know this might be controversial, in my mind, this is the first romantic comedy on the list. I would
Well,
say
that's
this is like
definitely highly controversial.
this is the first out and out romantic comedy in my opinion. When I was
Yeah,
going through
okay.
the list and I was like, "Oh, there's only 3 romantic comedies on," and then you were like, "There's 27 romantic
Yeah,
comedies on this list."
in the bottom half. Yeah.
But this, yeah, this is
Um,
the sort of first one that, yeah, like it
yeah,
is a
I
romantic
think
comedy. It also knows it's a romantic comedy.
yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like it's that more fits into that specific sort of square of what we say romantic comedy is of. It's just, boy and girl and they go through a journey and they go through the acts and they get together at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, yeah. But you've definitely got lots of romantic comedies for this. But I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I'll take that. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You say about Adam Sandler. He did sort of come on out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden he just exploded. Right? He just
Mm.
here and look, I'm not saying that he's bad. Just not necessarily the exact humor for me, but people love him. Obviously, he just churns out films again and again, and
Yeah.
he's comedy films. I mean, he's doing some more dramas at the moment now as well. The last like few years, which seem to I haven't seen a lot of them, but everyone says they're really good. And so yeah, just and why not? If there's a huge captive audience, you enjoy doing it, and obviously he just generally produces them himself and then gets all his mates on board. Why
Yeah.
not? I mean, yeah, credit to him. How much fun would that be if you were his mate and you're like, oh, we're just making another film? Like, oh, great, okay, cool.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, yeah, they're usually sort of critically panned, and
Yes.
but make loads and loads of money because everyone
Yeah.
wants to go and see them. And
Yeah.
this is definitely. I mean, I would say like, yeah, in every sort of
Mm.
romantic movie that he's in, there's maybe like a 5-second funny scene. I would say this is the
Yeah.
only sort of romantic one, and he's now done a lot of them. But I think this is the
Yeah.
only one that works for me. But I think it also sort
Yeah.
of did transfer him to actually being sort of a romantic lead and being able to to get away with
Yeah.
that and bring something sort of different to it. Although funnily enough, I don't think he then did like another another sort of romantic comedy for quite a while
Yeah.
after this because he was obviously just sort of making the movies that he's known for
Yeah. Yeah.
with a couple of kind of sort of more serious ones in between um
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing.
yeah
You look back at his career and you just see some of them, and you're like, from there onwards, it's like you said, The Water Boy. You've got Little Nicky, Mr. Deeds. I mean, and everyone knows all these films and probably seen them in their entirety, or at least a majority of them.
yeah
Anger Management, and they're all like that sort of same style film.
yeah
Yeah, and we'll say, oh yeah, but they're not great films, are they? Sort of but yet we've still have seen we could both say we've seen nearly 100% of all of
yeah
his films.
yeah
So it's one of those things, right? They're just always there or they're on or, and it's easy watching and it's escapism, right? As we always talk about.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I think he's sort of he's almost a talented actor, sort of
Yeah.
masquerading as a untalented one in some ways.
Yeah.
Reign Over Me is probably one of my favorites, which again is probably
Yeah.
definitely sort of more Andy movie, but it's
Yeah.
smaller and basically like his wife and child died in 9/11 on the plane, and he wasn't on the
Yeah.
plane,
Wow.
and it's just like him dealing with that grief or not dealing with it very
Yeah.
well at all. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's Don Cheadle as well as like a friend from college that he kind of reconnects with.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's brilliant, and he's so delivers it so powerfully, and
Yeah.
so gut wrenchingly, and it's a really good film, and so he sort of sprinkles in these other ones. I know sort
Yeah.
of Punch Drunk Love is very highly regarded as well. I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah.
Sort of it's on the list to watch. And he sort of does these other things, but then he sort of he goes back to the sort of slapstick comedy and the bro
Yeah.
comedy, and then throws in sort of a romantic comedy every now and again as well, which I think is fair play to him. And always, sort of,
Yeah.
funnily enough,
Yeah.
this also kind of in a way actually brought Drew Barrymore back as well. It was obviously sort of
Oh, I don't
started
know.
very early, and
Would you
then
not say Scream?
I
Is
think
Scream before this?
yeah, it's just before this, but I think
Yeah.
Scream is still quite a small role. I mean, I think
Yeah, but
she was offered like the main part in Scream,
yeah, but it was so
and
much
she,
better because she was, like you said, a known actress. She maybe not been
oh
anything for a
yeah,
while, but when
yeah,
she, I mean, spoilers for everyone who hasn't seen Scream, but
yeah,
close your ears now. But when she dies in like the first 5 minutes, you're in
yeah,
absolute shock because you're like, what? She's like the main person. How is she dead? So I think that was, whether that was her idea or whatever, that was genius because I'm like, I feel like that really got her into people. Everyone was talking about it. I remember when,
yeah,
can you believe Drew Barrymore dies right at the start? Like, you know, you're always talking
yeah,
about that regardless of anything. So, but I
yeah.
guess, yeah, this is
Well,
probably the next thing that got going on after that.
yeah, I mean, I think the sort of could she sort of lead a film because obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, she was in ET and then she had troubled childhood with yeah drugs
Mm,
and everything else, and kind of the system just not doing very well. And then I
yeah.
think this kind of was yeah definitely sort of Scream. I think brought her back into the consciousness, and
Yeah.
then after this, that's when you actually start seeing her then being the main lead again, because you've got, Never Been Kissed and Charlie's Angels, and you sort of see her being
Yes.
way more the sort of yeah, one of the leads, which yeah, arguably it's like still almost a cameo in Scream. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
and sort of yeah, romantic comedy and stuff. So obviously, yeah, her character in this isn't particularly well written. They did actually get Carrie Fisher in to yeah, sort of make her character a bit better, like on the writing
Oh,
side of
really?
things. Yeah,
Wow.
which Carrie Fisher did a lot of sort of yeah, sort of script
Yeah.
doctoring. Um, so yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, like again, I mean, it's called The Wedding Singer, so yeah, it's definitely him that's the main character. But again, I think that just their dynamic works really well in there, and their chemistry
Yeah.
is just I think a really sweet chemistry, and like just
Yeah.
like it's almost there isn't
Yeah.
really any sort of sexual tension or anything like that, but it's just nice.
Yeah.
Again, like they seem to really get on and sort of yeah, like I like the way that yeah, a lot of the time when they're together, it's almost the jokes that they're sort of they have the same sense of humor, which I think they portray really well. Is that
Yeah.
oh yeah, you know what they're going to yeah, they're going to be good together because they have the same sense of humor, and that's I think that's
Yeah.
quite difficult to do. Um,
Yeah, yeah, for
but
sure. Yeah. And I think often you find that, you think about the amount of films that these two have been in together. So obviously it's worked very well.
yeah,
Um, it's not, you don't often get that scenario where, the leading actor and actress work together, like, especially I guess in these sort of rom-coms, and then it keeps on working. And so, because obviously, eventually you're gonna be like, well, we've kind of seen this, haven't we? This is the same thing, but we're on a different island this time. So but
yeah,
yeah, I think these 2 really sort of nailed this genre down, didn't they? Just absolutely smashed it through, and then obviously ultimately went slightly different ways,
yeah. I
but
mean,
yeah,
I'm
definitely a
still
good
not sure.
partnership.
I'm still not sure if you named a film, is it Drew Barrymore or is it Jennifer Aniston in the
Yeah,
movie with Adam Sandler?
yeah,
I'm not sure that
yeah,
there's too much difference. But yeah, I think sort of with all Adam Sandler movies, they're basically a
mm,
cartoon.
yeah,
And and I think it's the same for this. And sort of yeah, I listened to a podcast actually that sort of broke it all down and was sort of talking about like the sort of the relationships and I was just even for me, I was a bit like, guys, come on,
yeah,
this isn't like some sophisticated treatise of late 20th century romance. You're just a bit like, no,
yeah,
this is just a fun
nah,
film that
yeah,
like has some laughs, has some sort of 80s throwbacks, which for me were funny because I was so young in the 80s that it's not like I was
yeah,
sort of I remember the
yeah,
references kind of more than I remember actually, the 80s.
yeah,
So I
the
think
actually, yeah,
this
yeah,
hits, I
agreed.
think, very well for yeah, for me, for like the age that I am, because it is
Yeah,
yeah, like almost I can't say, oh no, that that didn't happen or it wasn't like that because I
yeah,
don't remember. But I
yeah,
remember sort of yeah, like the references and stuff. Someone was saying
yeah,
like there's a scene where JR is shot, and they say, "Oh, well, that didn't. Yeah, that actually happened in 1983." And you're just like,
Yeah,
"No,
yeah, yeah,
guys, what are you
yeah, yeah.
doing? Like this,
Don't worry
this
about it.
isn't.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
this
that's the
isn't the
thing.
thing."
Those references continued into the 90s as well, because I think that's where I sort of got it. And also, like, having two older sisters that, both were fond of the 80s, I think that sort of
Yeah.
linked into my childhood as well. But I think, yeah, it lent into the 90s still, didn't it? Like, there's some films I see in the 90s and I'm like, oh wow, this definitely feels like an 80s film. It has all the 80s tropes, but it's not in the 80s. So I feel that, you still have that hangover at the start of the 90s until it drops off and it really then starts into, its own sort of decade. And so, yeah, I'm the same as you. Like, didn't necessarily experience it, but all of the tropes, all of the things that were supposed to have happened or linked into the 80s. And yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this film for ages and ages and ages. I remember having this on
Ah, okay.
VHS.
Mm.
So yeah, I did have this. So I did used to like it. So I'm not quite sure why I haven't seen it. I mean, I guess there's so much content, and there's so many Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore slash Jennifer
Jennifer
Aniston
Aniston.
films to watch, but you don't need to worry about it. But yeah, is it in terms of, obviously you said like why you like it, and obviously like when you first watched it, yeah, is there anything else that you're thinking about that you're like that like really links in, or like why you like it so much, or anything you're looking forward to, or is it just that whole package? You just think like it's a really good, well put together sort of romantic comedy?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think, yeah, I think again, there's a lack of cynicism in it because it
Yeah,
sort of it does play to the tropes, like absolutely. But I think it does it in a way that you kind of know. You know what's happening. You know there's going to be a
yeah,
misunderstanding that's going to be crucial to the plot. Like, and
yeah,
that's kind of fine, isn't it? It's almost one of those things where you like, when the second time that you watch a film or the second time, arguably, you read a book,
yeah,
you're not sort of so worried about the suspense or like figuring out what's going to happen. You just sort of relax into just sort of
yeah,
experiencing the story. And I think I think even the first time I watched this, because you kind of know what type of film it's going to be. And I do
yeah,
like that when, yeah, quite early on, you know what type of film that the film's going to be. So therefore, you can kind of take it on its own level, and you can kind
yeah,
of be like,
yeah,
okay, well, yeah, this is going to be a cheesy, 80s themed romantic comedy with two people
yeah,
that, yeah, that seem very nice together and good together. Yeah,
yeah,
that we're not going to have much backstory on a
yeah.
fiance that she may or may not leave,
Yeah, yeah.
but
That's the
like,
greatest things about the tropes of the 80s, is that they, as we
yeah.
discussed recently in our sort of recent run of 80s films, is that don't worry about the backstory, move the current story along and get going.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's what it does. What does really well, and I think obviously with the 80s, there's a couple of, yeah, very funny sort of, yeah, sight gags and stuff like that, and I think it's yeah, like yeah, I just think it's funny, it's nice, it's sort of a fun watch. I
yeah.
would say, who didn't like this film, and that's Roger Roger Ebert.
Oh, I
Really
thought you
did
were gonna
not
say
like
your
this film.
brother. It was I was like, wow, okay,
There
here we go.
we won't even go into there's a lot of, fashion and design that's very close to what my brother looked like in the 80s in this film, so, yeah, you'll have to
Brilliant.
ask him, about that next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he gave it 1 star. Um,
Yeah, okay.
he said, "Did anybody at any stage give the story the slightest thought?" Which seems a bit harsh.
Wow.
And then he said,
Yeah.
interestingly, he said one of the sad byproducts of the dumbing down of America is that we're now forced to witness the goofy plots of the 1930s played sincerely as if they were really deep. And I was just a bit like this isn't. They don't.
No.
They know that these are all tropes. They're not trying to
Yeah.
like reinvent anything.
No.
They are they're in on the joke. I think.
Yeah,
That's how
absolutely.
I took it. So
Yeah, it's a rom-com. No rom-com's like taking itself too seriously, is it really? By
well,
definition.
some
So,
some of them do, and
oh,
they're
yeah,
bad
okay.
because of it.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like unless it's a really like Oscar worthy type film, Ebert's not really got scope for it. He's like,
Yeah,
yeah, if it's a very good. Like I can see the actual how you change the cinematography, you've thought about a different type of story, or you challenge something. He's up for it, but he can't just sit back and go, "Oh, let's just watch something stupid and get some popcorn out." I don't
Yeah.
feel like he could ever do that. So that
Yeah.
doesn't really
So
surprise me.
basically, you're saying that my list is better because I can embrace all genres of films than Roger Ebert's.
I love
Uh,
how you got that immediately after I said that, and you're like, "When is he going to
his
stop talking so I can say this?"
his greatest movies ever that have like a kabillion views and everyone uses. You're
Yeah,
saying that my list should supplant that? Okay, yeah, no,
yeah.
I
I
agree.
think yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean he
Well,
is obviously very into his story. He does also say the basic miscalculation in Adam Sandler's career plan is to ever play the lead. He's not a lead. He's the best friend or the creep or the loser boyfriend. I was like,
well. I mean,
that seems a bit
I'm
harsh. He does
I'm
he
sure
does
he's
come
his
around.
bank balance would disagree with that. So,
He does come
uh,
around. Yeah, he does recognize that he's better for some of the later ones. So
yeah, like I've not seen. Is it Uncut Gems? But that's supposed to be
yeah,
very,
it's
very good.
supposed
And
to be
he's supposed to
good.
be good in
Yeah,
that. And he's done some other stuff. And I like Hotel Transylvania. That's a lot of fun animation. I think he's good in that.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like it's like Eddie Murphy, right? When Eddie Murphy got into this sort of realm once he was, really like well known, he just kept being in movies, and he'd play about 12 characters, right? And he almost he was just it was bankable. You knew if you put him in a movie, he'd make you some money, but it didn't necessarily mean that he was making the best movies. But people
yeah.
just watch it, and it's a nice, like easy watch. It doesn't have to be, changing the world like Malcolm X all the time. We need some light relief as well. And yeah, I mean, I think I feel like he's grown on me more. I feel like I went through a period where I was like, I don't really. Maybe there was just too many. He did so many films, didn't he? And they were so similar through. And of course, we didn't have all the streaming availabilities back in the 90s, so we would have just seen all these films, and you kind of like, yeah, maybe this is too much. So I'm going to be really interested going back into this because I haven't seen it for a long time, and I wonder if I'm actually, like you said, maybe it might go into my top 10. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that we never know. If there's a film that I think that you're really gonna like these days, then all of a sudden, we get the
Yeah.
Serenity, Empire of the Sun debacle that comes out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Serenity, I'm less worried about, but Empire of the Sun does still hurt me. I still feel like I should have liked that film. Uh,
Awesome. Well, yeah, yeah, I mean, let's get the popcorn out.
yeah.
Let's get the sweets. Let's settle back into a comfy chair. This is a popcorn movie. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you after the jump.
Romantic, I think, is what I would say. When I look back at these romantic comedies, and I do think this still fits into what you're saying, like that classic sort of romantic comedy sort of guys. When you look back at them, they are quite romantic, the films. There's not that much comedy, rom-coms. When you actually look back, you're like, I think I've been sold like a dummy here. Like, what's happened?
Well, I mean, what wants is
Yeah.
obviously the romance without the comedy, and you hate that. So maybe it's a couple of gags.
Yeah, I mean, pure romance is definitely, yeah, it's maybe 2005 Andy's dream, but yeah, definitely not mine.
It's like happy romance, isn't it? I know what you're
Yeah,
saying. That like yeah, there's sort of a couple of funny bits, but it's like it's
yeah,
sort of happy
happy's a good
romance
way.
against depressed
Mm,
romance because most
yeah,
most other romances that aren't romantic comedies
yeah,
are a bit depressing. Like someone always dies in
yeah,
the end, or something bad
yeah,
happens, and and
yeah,
love will prevail. And I think it's nice
yeah,
actually just to have
true.
a nice romance where actually it's just quite happy and it all works out, and
Yeah,
nothing serious really happens. And
yeah, I think that's a really good way to describe it, actually. Happy romance. You're right. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily romantic comedy. It is a happy romance. And it's
yeah,
nostalgic, obviously, with so much of the 80s, which is awesome. I love that, the music and the clothes. Um, but yeah, you're right. It's more happy. And it was an enjoyable watch. But it definitely wouldn't be on my top 100, I must admit. So,
really,
yeah. I was trying to work this out. I have seen a lot of rom-coms, and I do like some of them, but I was trying to work out if I really like them or not. Like, if they're just something I just it's just something you just sort of like, "Oh, yeah, that was
Yeah, yeah.
pleasant," or that was, like you said, happy. Or, is there anything where I've actually thought, "Yeah, that was really good." I'll have to check my list and see. I know Romancing the Stone's pretty high up, but again, is that a rom-com? I don't
No,
know.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like
An event
where warm
adventure
warm
romance?
adventure.
Yeah, because when you
If you
watch
can't
that
abbreviate it, then
yeah,
it doesn't
then
exist.
it's not on the list, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, yeah, so I did enjoy it. Yeah, it was, yeah, pleasant or, like, happy. Yeah, it was a nice watch, and I hadn't seen this film for a long, long time.
Mm,
So it was nice to see it again. Adam Sandler is crazy. He's almost completely different, isn't he? He's like such
yeah,
a muted version of his current self, or he's like,
yeah,
he's like famous self now. Like, it was really nice. It was nice and delicate. He didn't, he doesn't overplay. There's a couple of times when he gets a bit more like gets into that shouty bit, but it's
yeah,
fine because it only happens like a couple of times. So I thought he was very good. He held the screen really well. I thought he was really good.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I was really impressed, and it just shows you that now. I mean, and actually, it's now that you say this, this reminds me. You're right. It is sort of a happy comedy, a happy romance. And when I think about his films, because I know we spoke about this in the first half, and I was thinking, he's done so many of these just sort of run of the mill type films, but people keep watching him, and I think that's the thing. He does create like a happy film, or he does create
yeah,
like a nice it's just a nice film. Like,
yeah,
it's not taking itself seriously. It's not worrying about giving you a message. It's just doing something a bit silly, putting it together. And I think that's why people like it so much. And I think in a post-COVID world, I was almost enjoying it more because I'm like, yeah, you kind of you're hitting the nail on the head of what is needed. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, you think
yeah.
that's fair?
Yeah, no, I think I think it is because a lot of the gags and a lot of the sort of comedic things like resolve themselves just sort of nicely. I mean, I think like
Yeah,
the job interview as an example, like
yeah,
that they sort of
yeah.
they're cutting in and out of it. I'd love someone to be in an interview and said, "Look, I just need this job to impress a girl." That would be brilliant.
Yeah,
I'd be
and
so
you'd be like,
tempted.
sold. Yeah.
There must be able to
Yeah,
find you a
you're
job
hired.
somewhere. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, like, I think there's in this, I think more than all of his other comedies and
Yeah.
especially his sort of rom-coms, there's every sort of third scene, there's a setup that then is sort of
Mm.
nicely played and then resolved and moved on. I think in the other
Mm.
ones that I've seen of his, and I don't think seen them on when they're on Netflix or when they're sort of in the
Yeah.
background. Then there's one scene that was clearly
Mm.
like, oh, this will be really funny if this is the scene, and it sort of
Yeah.
builds up to that scene, but the rest of it's pretty dire. Whereas the thing with this, like
Mm.
every sort of 5 or 10 minutes, there's something that's just a bit funny or just a bit
Yeah.
quirky, or like sort of something that makes you smile. And
Yeah.
I think that's why it's a good film. And then, yeah, I definitely
Mm.
agree that so yeah. The word nice obviously is overused, but that's
Yeah.
the thing. It
Yeah.
just sort of
It
it
is.
keeps going on.
Yeah.
Sort of nothing is taken too seriously.
Yeah.
But I think especially in this one, him and Drew, I think
Yeah.
they do really well, and I think the script is really good. Something sort of stood out for me, like even at the beginning, they just
Yeah.
connect so well. Where she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna wander the world alone," and he's like, "Oh, like the Incredible
Yeah.
Hulk," and she's like, "Yeah," and like that's the thing, like they just instantly sort of connect on the same humor, and I think that's why it's
Yeah.
sort of that it's so good to watch because you kind of you get that they're on the same wavelength right from the very beginning when they haven't even sort of met each other yet or been introduced to each
Yeah.
other yet. I do think she is slightly more there are more scenes of just her and her background than in most
Yeah.
rom-coms. Like not
Yeah.
by any means not equal, but at least
Yeah.
you see her talking to her cousin alone. You see her with Glenn and with her mother and sort of stuff like that. And I think in a lot of rom-coms, you just wouldn't
Mm.
even see that. It would just be from his point of view. But I do
Yeah,
think, and
true.
obviously this is where maybe the Carrie Fisher sort of rewrites came into it, that there is just a
Mm.
bit more from her point of view. Again, yeah, not equal by any means, but like there is
Yeah.
a bit more.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right as well. The chemistry they have, it's not like a really old school romantic comedy where it's they're saying that they've loved each other and they've just saw each other and they love each other and you're like, oh,
yeah,
this is so ridiculous. I think you're right. They just get on. They just see each other and they're sort of smiling. They're not like, swooning. They're just sort of chatting, getting to know each other,
yeah,
realizing they have similar sort of like interests. And then the more time they spend together, the more time they're enjoying each other. And I think they do that really well in this versus other like rom-coms, especially older rom-coms where they basically fall in love and then they get married and you're just like, what is going on? Like, why is this?
yeah.
Why has that all happened in a week? It's just like,
Is it raining? I
yeah.
didn't even notice. Yeah, no, I think that that's the thing. Well, and I think that that's kind of they pull it together with the last song of "I Want to Grow Old with You." Like you can imagine them
Yeah,
growing old together because it's not like, oh,
yeah,
she's really hot or he's really hot, or like it's not sort of based on that type of chemistry. It's
yeah,
based on actually, she knows when she's invited, like when he invites her up to dance, then she knows that like he's doing it to be nice to the kid that he was chatting to,
yeah,
and like on that
yeah.
same wavelength. And I think that's why it's just like, oh, like they're
Mm,
friends, and then they get together, and yeah, I just think
yeah,
I just think it is really nice. Then with sort of littered with, I think sort of funny background
yeah,
characters that kind of that keep it going through. I mean, I think George is just so funny
yeah. Oh
throughout
my
the film. Like
gosh, yeah.
all of the different instruments. I love I love when he's singing the song, the holiday version, and he's like, "I live in my sister's basement," and George is still giving like the backup vocals as though he's as though he's like doing it seriously, and he's still like
Yeah.
committed to it, which I just think is
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, he was really good, and especially they really nail that scene of obviously every time he keeps singing, what's the
Culture Club, yeah.
song? Culture Club, yeah, yeah, "Do You Really Wanna Hurt Me?" And you're just like, great because it would be a terrible wedding song as well, like, you
Yeah.
want someone to play that at a wedding, and then, yeah, they get him doing it all the time, and they don't overplay it, which is good. You see it's in a couple of scenes,
Yeah.
and then they sort of cut away during that scene, but you can hear it in the background, so it's good, like, it's not too much, but it's nice because the gag really rolls through, so that was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
And
he
then
was a
he's
good
playing
character.
like the clarinet and the
Yeah,
trombone, and like, yeah,
yeah.
he's obviously like really good musically, and yeah, no, I
Oh, yeah,
think, yeah.
and what I was gonna ask you this, what happened to Steve Buscemi? Like, I don't know, I guess he must have just become friends with Adam Sandler, and he's in a lot of Adam Sandler films, but he was like a really good, well-respected actor, and I mean, he's great in this. He portrays the character really well, and he does the drunken bit really well, and I was like, "He's really good," but I was like, "What happened to him? Like, did he just go like, I've done enough. I'm just gonna have fun now?'"
No, I think
Yeah.
because he went on to TV, didn't he? He did like Boardwalk Empire,
Yeah,
and was
yeah,
in
which was
like
good.
yeah, which was like loads of that. And then he's still in, I think he's still in stuff, but he can afford to be a bit
Yeah,
more picky, and yeah,
yeah,
like just decides what to do. I get it. Yeah, I get the feeling he's made his money, and now he just
yeah,
chooses sort of funny things or working with his friends and stuff like that.
yeah,
But it's funny, isn't it? It's obviously he'd been in Reservoir Dogs
yeah,
by the time that this had come out. But then he just sort of still just kind of popping up. He is sort of more noticeable than everyone else.
yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and I think a lot of people almost, if they remember this movie, remember him more than other people as
Yeah,
kind of one of the supporting cast, and obviously he's only in it like 3 times. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
he does do what he does do well.
It's it's just so bizarre, like you said, seeing him, especially after Reservoir Dogs, you just like he was like so good. Why is he? But I mean, yeah, like you said, maybe he thinks I've made enough money, I've done some good things, and it doesn't in my mind, I can't really see him and Adam Sandler being friends, but obviously they must be because they're in the same movies all the time. But it just doesn't feel like they would be. But
Yeah, I don't think he's. And I'm not sure. Is he part of? I don't think he's part of the gang there. I don't think he's like
he's in
he's.
I think he's in all of the films. I'm
Oh really?
sure. Yeah, I'm
Maybe
sure he's in.
just
Yeah,
likes being with him, maybe, and yeah.
yeah,
No, he does.
but yeah,
He does do well. Um, I do think like it's funny that the exposition is so heavy-handed, but I think that's almost a
yeah,
bit of a throwback to the 80s. It was funny when
yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, you'll be really great in your 50th wedding anniversary. Oh, well, your parents will be looking down on you on your," like it's
yeah,
so like they just sort of
yeah,
they could just get the storyline in and just
yeah,
sort of cram it in, which I think is is funny. And
yeah.
the other thing is actually Julia being selfish, making Glenn do a big wedding when he wants to go to Vegas. I'm actually like, you know what?
There you go. Good question. Yeah, yeah, good question. I mean, he did ask. He did. Well, she did say, "Yeah, I will do the wedding in Vegas," and then he went, "Oh, okay, only joking. Yeah, we'll do it here." But was that just because he knew so many girls there? I don't know. That might have been the thing.
Well, up
Yeah,
until like because he's in there and he like surprises her and he's like bought the
yeah,
tickets and then he says, "Oh well, I know it's more important to you anyway." And then like from that moment on, he just
yeah,
becomes more and more of a sleaze bag,
yeah,
which in the first couple of minutes you're like, "Oh, this guy seems nice," and then obviously,
yeah.
yeah, he goes downhill
They,
quite rapidly.
yeah,
But
they
it's
sort that
just
out straight away,
the
don't they?
80s, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Things happen. Yeah. Was there anything you did like about it?
no,
Obviously,
I
it's
mean,
number 50, so, it's a nice round number.
yeah, 51.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, 51. Yeah, episode
50, we're
50.
halfway through, but yeah, 51.
Getting in your
Uh,
head.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, yeah, I think it's fine. You have to take it as it's coming at
Yeah.
you, which is, yeah, again, like maybe if you were in the 80s, you would think that it was sort of, yeah, a bit more sort of mocking the 80s, but it sort of
Mm.
plays with the memories of the 80s that I have. And
Yeah.
I just do. I just think it's sort of it's fun. It moves along. It doesn't get stuck anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, it's just kind of one of those again as we sort of say, yeah, it's just nice. It's not too long.
Yeah.
You know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. It's again, isn't it? When you've
Yeah.
seen a movie before, so you don't have to worry about where it's going. You just sort of enjoy the ride. And I think even the very
Yeah.
first time that I'd seen this, yeah, we all knew where it was
You just
going.
feel, yeah, yeah, it's pretty
And
obvious.
so
And like you said, it's hard. Is it just the film, or is it just that they've gone, well, this is just what films were like in the 80s. So it's just a throwback to the 80s. And so you can get away with it, can't you? Whether you deliberately meant it or not. You go, well, we were just trying to replicate exactly what a
yeah.
film was like in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
Was there
yeah,
anything
no,
new
it's
that you noticed though? Or you just, like you said, just sat back, you've seen it so many times and just sat back and enjoyed it?
well, I noticed and listening to a podcast on it as well,
Mm.
the bride on top of the wedding cake, even the
Oh
first
yeah.
time is actually Drew Barrymore. It's like a blonde
Ah,
hair person
interesting.
with like the same blonde hair as her. Um, yeah,
Wow.
I noticed the club was called Spankies, which
Yeah.
I think is a very
Did
80s thing. Uh, then and the fact that they were doing breakdancing in the club, and I'm something of an aficionado these days, so
yeah.
I was critiquing
Yeah.
their breaking a bit more than I did
Yeah.
previously. So
I did think about that. I referenced Reagan. I thought, "Oh, is this where she got her moves from?" Yeah.
I think it's also
Yeah.
it's quite funny that the Glenn's like, well, we've been together for 4 years, so I owe her to get married. And you're just like, wow, like 4 years
Yeah.
nowadays isn't a
Yeah,
very long
wow.
time to be with someone
No.
before getting married. But
No.
back then it was like, oh, well, 4 years, geez, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
too
yeah.
too
You got,
late.
well, and also just then if you've been together with someone for a period of time, you just have to get married to them. It's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
like
Yeah,
you could just continue with life normally. Like I remember,
yeah,
was it Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell? And
yeah.
they were together. I don't know if they're still together now. I don't know, but they were together for years and years and years and years. And everyone was like, "Oh yeah, they're not married though." And you're like, "Yeah, they just didn't want to get married. Why?
Well,
Why is everyone so hung up about it?"
it's the same for Brad and Angelina, and then look how that went when they did get married. So.
Exactly. This is the question that I brought. That for me is like, what question does the film ask? And I was like, should people get married? Like that's I think this was this is a classic scenario to show you that maybe you shouldn't. Uh,
Well, it does go into like, and obviously no, it's called Wedding Singer, but it does go into
yeah.
weddings and the thought behind weddings and everything else.
Mm,
And which is
yeah.
still just a yeah, it's a bit of a strange sort of concept, isn't
Mm,
it? Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I thought that was just interesting that like yeah, how much it kind of went into weddings and
Yeah. It's a bit
yeah,
like
like all the
Father of the
different ways of
Bride.
doing it. Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
like the actual like doing the flowers and all that. It's interesting because I would have thought, with that sort of thing, I would have been like, oh, this is gonna be really boring. But it wasn't too bad. They did quite well. The scenes were quite nicely done and they weren't overplayed.
yeah.
So I thought they were okay.
Yeah, no,
Um
and that's the thing because they move quickly. They don't
mm,
sort of
those ones,
stick around, and
yeah,
like they have the cake eating as a montage
yeah,
with a song
yeah,
track over it. Same with the wedding dress, and then like yeah, in the flowers, then they're actually talking, but they don't do sort of each of those scenes
yeah,
if they sort of did it as a non-montage with the sort of the song over the top of it, then it would have
yeah,
just been too long. So I think yeah, the pacing's really good for that. Of just like, oh, this is
yeah,
just like the
definitely.
comedy bit of them going through everything and kind of yeah, getting them
Yeah.
to like each other more.
I think you've nailed it as well. Like they've subliminally like taken over my mind by putting a nice 80s song on it, and I was like, oh, this scene's fine. This scene is all right because it's got like a nice 80s song that I really enjoyed. Yeah.
I loved in the background. There were in all the houses there were the picture frames that had like different shapes with
Oh yeah.
pictures in them. You must have had
No, I
one of
didn't see
those
that.
back in the day, where it would be like there would basically be cardboard and there'd be like circles and squares and you'd have different photos for each
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
different shapes and like
yeah,
grandparents always had them with like the different grandkids in each in
yeah,
each of
yeah,
the in each of the holes and yeah
yeah,
that definitely was something that I was like, oh yeah, no one does that anymore. So
yeah. Everyone's bypassed that terrible thing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, that is definitely a very old 80s thing, isn't it? Well, I guess yeah, maybe the 90s as well. But yeah, I didn't
I think
notice
into
that.
the 90s, then you'd have like collages, but you wouldn't have the frame around it because there's so much dead
Yeah,
space then in the frame.
yeah. Oh my
It's sort of
god,
just a
yeah.
bit weird.
You would just have their head, wouldn't you? Really, which is
Yeah.
like weird. There was one thing that I noticed in this is that like Drew Barrymore's clothes are really strange in this. Like really
Oh.
strange. Like everyone else is wearing like 100% 80s outfits.
Mm.
And she like it's almost like she's dressed like an old grandma. Then she dresses in she could have fitted into Back to the Future when they go back to the 50s. She has
Yeah,
like
the
I
dresses.
don't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that strange outfits. I don't know if she chose them or if but it's weird. Her outfits definitely don't look 80s, I don't think. Whereas like her friend obviously is like but
Yeah.
everything she wears is like she gets up in
It's
the morning,
Madonna.
she's cooking breakfast, and yeah, she's got like sweatbands on, bangles, she's got scrunchy. You're like, wow, this is just breakfast, and she could look more 80s. It was brilliant. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's true.
that's a
Yeah,
bit
she
strange.
has sort of very
Mm,
big sort of yeah, flowy dresses
yeah,
that like a
yeah,
very southern
yeah,
belle almost.
yes.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely
it's a
not
bit weird.
80s. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah. What was which, oh, we haven't done the aliens. Do you want to do the aliens? Wanna,
Yeah, I mean, all I had for the aliens just,
mm,
I'm sorry you've traveled through the infinity of space and missed the 80s by 40 years. It's just
oh,
such a shame. If you
yeah,
traveled
I think,
imagine traveling all
yeah,
the way through space and
yeah,
then you arrive now rather than the 80s and you
yeah.
watch this and you're like,
Well, I
wish we'd
think
arrived in the 80s.
what I would then do is I would take over the country or like the world, I guess. Yeah, I'm an alien. I can take over the world. And then I would make everyone relive the 80s. So all technology would be rolled back. And you could only have like a gigantic mobile phone, and then no one else would have one. And we'd all have to
We'd go
wear
back
terrible
to
clothes.
CD players and
Yeah, God, maybe it would be good times. Maybe like the aliens bring happiness back to planet Earth. Who knows? Just the
There's always
80s is
there's always a plot.
definitely
there's always a plot, isn't there, in alien movies where they're like, oh, we're going to go back to the Stone Age, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go back to the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
No,
going to
we've
make the
worked it out.
technology a
Yeah.
bit worse.
Yeah, exactly. And just a bit worse. They remember it and they know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what did I
What
put?
did you have? How did you describe it?
It was a bit of an interesting one. I just put, yeah, some people from the 80s have a rocking time and also marriage doesn't work. That seems to be something that came through quite thickly for me in this. In this, I don't know if it's just the Linda song that's really resonated with me. But yeah, that was
you've had it on repeat all
yeah,
all week.
yeah, just like yeah, that was a good song. When she's like, oh, he's like, no, I don't really want to play it. She's like, yeah, go on, play it, and he's like, oh, okay. And
I
then
was listening to The Cure a lot.
yeah, and then John Lovitz as well when he's just there by the curtain, and then they just pull the curtain back over his face. That was good. He was really good. He was the character I wanted to be most. I really like him. I think he's got such good comedy timing. It's a shame he's not in it more actually.
Yeah,
He's brilliant.
as the rival. Is it ladies
Yeah.
night? I
Yeah.
wanna know.
Yeah. Which what character did you have?
I mean, I did the old guy in the bar. Just, I think he seems like a really nice guy. He gives his friend a hug. He's lending
hug,
him a moonwalk.
Yeah. He tries to punch the guy for him,
Yeah,
and then
exactly. Yeah,
realizes he's not as strong as he was. Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair.
Steps up. He's, he's a good friend.
He's done well, yeah.
Yeah. No, he's yeah. Bless him.
What about the lines? You have any, there were some good lines in this. I must say,
Yeah.
I need to discuss after this, but I watched Wedding Crashers immediately after this.
Okay.
And that
weddings.
yeah, well, it was back-to-back weddings. I think Vince Vaughn must ad-lib so much of that film. Like, he's on fire. I think it's probably his best film.
Oh,
Like,
really?
he's so good in it. And I was trying to think, there's a point where I was thinking, oh, it gets a bit rubbish. And I think it's only a small bit when they go and see Will Ferrell, and I think it's for 5 or 10 minutes. And actually, the rest of it, it's really good. It holds up really well, I thought still. So
I thought you were just about to say, oh, this isn't doesn't hold up at all. But yeah.
no, I actually really enjoyed it. I like Vince Vaughn's lines, honestly, because I guess I watched it a bit more critically after I was watching this as well, because I was watching it to try and compare. And I was like, God, he's so good. There's points when he really speeds up his talking, and I think, oh, I wonder if
Yeah.
that's when he's ad libbing, because it's coming out naturally. He's not having to think about it.
Yeah.
And it's, anyway, yeah, interesting. But that had some really good lines in it, which just made me think of this.
we've got to the point now where you're like, any good lines not from the film that we're talking about, but from some other film that's on the same thing. Yeah, let's do favorite lines from Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, I basically now just watch about 3 films per podcast to compensate for the fact that there's one I don't like, and I'm like, I'll just watch some other films and talk about them in the podcast.
Just put them all together, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, the thing is, in a year's time, you're going to say, no, I really liked a Wedding Singer. There's some really great ad-libbed lines, and you won't even remember which one was which.
Yeah. But no, this did have some very good lines in it as well, but I must admit. So yeah, go on, what did you have?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of lots of good one-liners. So I think the when he's at the party and he's like having a go at the friend, he says, "Oh, my parents died when I was 10. Do you want to talk about that?" The guy's like, "Why would we want to talk about that?" I don't know.
Yeah, that's the first time I've got written down as well. That was so good. And he delivers it so deadpan, doesn't he? It's like, yeah, you know my parents died when I was 10. Yeah,
have a few drinks and drive home. Yeah. And then I think it's funny with Linda when she's like, "Oh well, can you tell him that I stopped by?" And she's like, "Yeah, I will, Jennifer." And she's like, "Jude," and then she's already slammed the door in her face. That's like, there's some good timing there, I think, as well. At one stage, his friend says about Fonzie and stuff, no one wants to see a 50-year-old guy hitting on chicks. And I do feel like Adam Sandler could go back and watch this and actually maybe bear that in mind for his future films.
Yeah.
no one does want to see a 50-year-old guy hitting on women
Yeah.
in a film. So maybe,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
bear that
Yeah.
in mind.
See if he
Um,
gets on that, yeah.
yeah, and then
Mm.
again, he says, "Oh, I'm just trying to do some stuff to improve my situation." And she says, "Oh, sounds a bit selfish." I was like, "Does it?"
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, was this an 80s thing? You weren't allowed to improve your situation at all. You had to do every that was
Yeah.
just too corporate. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, maybe,
that's
yeah.
fine. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, she did have some good lines actually, didn't she, Linda? She was in some, even though she's not in the film a lot, I had like one of the lines I had from her as well where um it's at the bit at the end where he's fallen asleep and then he's sort of waking up and she's like, "What have you done? Why are you wearing my Van Halen shirt? Get out of it before you jinx them." And then she's like, "Oh, oh, okay. Oh, so you're still pissed about the wedding thing?"
yeah,
And he
that whole
says,
wedding thing.
"Yeah, that's brilliant." You're just like, "Yeah, of
Yeah.
course he is." That was like really like not long ago. Um,
Yeah. Well, even when she's like trying to be, she's standing there all sexy, and
yeah.
then he's like, "I don't want to be alone." You don't have to be alone. And then he falls, he really like passes out. You see, actually, like on her face, she's like, "Ah, this is it. This isn't quite the way that I thought this was going to go, and now I'm going to
Yeah,
have to drag him into the house." I don't think
yeah.
she does well for only being in,
Mm.
only in a couple of scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Especially,
Yeah.
yeah, like I've been talking to my friends, and he's like, "Oh, here we go. This is the problem."
Yeah. And that's a classic 80s thing as well. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you'd always
Yeah,
talk to your
exactly,
friends and
yeah.
then they'd come back and go, "Yeah, talk to my friends." You're like, "Oh, no, this
Yeah,
doesn't sound good."
yeah. He did Glenn does say when he punches him, he does say, "You're just a poor singing orphan." And I was like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
a bit harsh. That's,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, it's
Yeah, that's
going
nasty.
right to the bone."
Yeah, well, that's Glenn. It's Glenn all over,
Yeah, it's just Glenn for you. It's just people who like, Miami Vice too much.
Yeah, oh, he did have some great Miami Vice clothes on, I must admit. What
That
the,
was my question, funnily enough, was,
yeah.
yeah, where did all of the bright colors from fashion go? Did we just use all the
Yeah,
material, all the fluorescent material in the
yeah,
80s? So there's just
yeah.
none left.
And there was quite a bit of salmon and fluoro pink almost going on as well.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, there you go." It was the
yeah,
80s started all this trend, so
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. But it's amazing that Glenn does actually also use the phrase, "a grade A top choice meat." Like,
yeah, yeah,
because
mm,
the air stewardess comes in saying, "Oh, someone in coach was cracking on to me,
yeah,
and he just called me this," and you're just a bit
yeah.
like, I can't see that line ever having worked. Like, you're referring to someone as
Yeah,
meat. Surely
yeah,
that's not gonna
yeah.
have ever
I
worked as
think
a chat up line. I'm not
yeah, even in the 80s,
even in the 80s.
I don't think that would have worked, yeah. Yeah. They really you're right, they really ramp him up as like the villain. Don't they? Like
Yeah.
they really set him up nicely with some good lines. And it was good
Yeah.
at the end with Billy Idol as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's really funny, and also,
Mm.
I remember this from the first time I watched it. When the drinks cart hits her elbow, like it
Oh,
really does. You really feel
oh,
it as well. I think that they do that. Yeah, you just like, oh, that would really hurt.
yeah. And it was
Well,
quite funny
the
because normally everyone wants to like sit in the aisle, and then he was like, "No, no, maybe it's you get the drinks trolley." And I was
well,
like, "Oh,
yeah.
I
What are you
hadn't thought
talking
about
about? No,
that."
I'm a window. I'm a window man. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
you don't
I
want
know
to be
you're
in.
win. I know
You want
you'd
to
be
be
a
in
window man. You want
there.
to be right in the window, nowhere near anyone else. Get away from it all. Sit there and watch the wedding singer.
I fell enough. I did actually watch this on a plane, so
Yeah. There you go.
there we go.
Uh,
Not going anywhere too exotic. I mean, the
mm,
3-star reviews
yeah. It's been
were
a few.
very, yeah, but they were just basically annoyed. So apparently, there's a totally awesome edition, and
Oh yeah.
again,
Okay.
people were annoyed about that. Someone
Mm,
actually wrote a 200 word
wow.
review on the fact
Amazing.
that the totally awesome edition didn't have the original, and it's basically going on
Oh,
about it all throughout, saying that it's not the original film. Basically, there's like
yeah.
one added scene that's what makes the totally awesome edition, and
Yeah.
that's it. And so they finish with one final thought in closing is that the least they could have done, since they took the time to put all of this onto a DVD, is that they could have had the original version in there too. And they probably thought, why do that when we can make money by just putting this version on there? And if people want the regular, they'll have to buy that one too. Well, it worked,
It-
because now I have to go out and buy the original too.
I mean, you don't have to. You could just stick with this one and close your eyes during the
Just,
extra scenes.
just fast forward. It's
Mm.
a DVD. You
Oh,
literally, all you
God.
have to do is fast forward the scene that
Wow.
you don't want to see. So obviously we had the controversy about the Star Wars
Yeah.
re-editions
Yeah.
previously, and apparently
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
What
apparently the
happened with
same
this?
has happened.
Yeah.
One of the weirder ones, not a Western, but the girlfriend loved it.
No, a Western, The Wedding Singer. Why would they think that would be a
Yeah.
Western?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although maybe that's the way that they
maybe.
preface all of their 3-star reviews. I did actually go on to
Yeah.
Amazon. You're
Yeah.
wrong. There are no stars created. So you have
No,
to click the
okay.
stars. So it doesn't
Yeah, okay.
default to 3 stars.
Okay.
Um,
All right then. Good to
and
know.
then someone else said certainly one for the chicks. That was left in
Mm.
2010, and I just thought, you know what,
Wow.
times have changed, haven't they, since 2010?
Yeah. Wow. One for the chicks. Oh, I don't know. Probably some people still say that, wouldn't they?
So
Yeah.
what did you have for the algo then?
Well, yeah, obviously, I'd watched Wedding Crashers, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would say Wedding Crashers is exactly like this, but I kind of included it. When Harry Met Sally, I thought that's quite a sort of happy romantic one. My best friend's wedding, I think that's pretty similar. Father of the Bride, obviously, as we said earlier, yes, a lot of the sort of planning of the wedding's the same. I also put in Once, because I thought, that was just for you. I don't think it's anything like this, because Once is a horrifically terrible film that no one should ever watch. But I just thought I'll put that in for you.
It's funny actually,
Yeah.
in the longer list, the algo
Mm.
has High Fidelity, and I think this film is very much like High Fidelity. They
Yeah.
also have Mannequin, obviously classic
Oh,
80s,
okay. It is
classic
classic 80s.
80s,
Oh, Andrew McCarthy, the
yeah,
best.
one. Um, and then also Rock of Ages, which I guess maybe the 80s thing.
No.
But yeah, to begin with, they have Music and Lyrics, which is another Drew Barrymore one with Hugh Grant. They have
Oh, yeah.
13 going on 30, which is it's a bit of a
Is
strange
that
one.
is that like a vice versa type?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Same. It's not the
yeah,
same.
it's the one with
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner. And then I Love You Man. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. Is that Paul Rudd in that one?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
yeah. Well,
uh,
yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah. Hmm. I feel like
yeah.
I've nailed this though, to be fair.
I mean, I think Wedding Crashers is a good shout, because again, I think
Mm.
it's just kind of it's just fun, isn't it? It's
Yeah. It's
just a
so
bit of sort
fun.
of don't look into it too
Yeah.
deeply. It's
Yeah.
fine. Just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll give that to you for having that,
Yes.
and actually going the extra yard and watching
Yeah.
another movie for this movie,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is good.
Exactly. I'm putting in the yards now, especially as we're getting into the top 50, I'm pulling out all the guns. So, all right, so it is 51. Where are you settling it down now then?
Yeah, it will drop down a little bit. I think it's a bit too high. I thought,
Yeah.
you know what? I thought I would put it just above, just below Gifted,
Hmm.
because I like Gifted, but I
Okay.
still think
Yeah.
it's just a fun watch. It's
Yeah.
not challenging. It's just sort of fun, half a
Yeah.
hour and a half movie. So I put it in at
Hmm.
57.
Yeah,
And then
nice.
kind of bumped everything up. It's interesting
Yeah.
now, because there's four
Yeah.
slots open above
Yeah.
50. There's 51, 52, 58, and 59. And obviously,
Yeah.
if I don't know why, but it feels like momentous moving something from below
Yeah.
50 to over 50. So,
Yeah. Like it's
you
big.
know, yeah, there's going to
Well,
be
we'll cover all this off in our bonus episode for our 50th reaching 50 episodes. I'm
a,
looking forward to that. I can't wait
a
for
deep
that.
dive into the list.
Yeah. I can't wait. There's going to be some good chat on that. I think we should have some special guests. It's going to be great. We'll probably do it in Vegas. You know, it's going to be amazing.
It's gonna be a whole thing. Well, let's not do
Yeah.
it in Vegas. Let's do it in a small town.
Oh, oh, okay.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah, okay. Oh,
goodness.
yeah. Now you say that. Yeah, let's do that.
Which one of us is Drew Barrymore?
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah.
Where is it on your list?
I had it in the okay section.
Okay.
I put it 27, so above Aeroplane. It's definitely more enjoyable than Aeroplane. Not that Aeroplane wasn't. It's just I think Aeroplane you get a bit. It gets a bit tedious, doesn't it? In the end, Aeroplane.
Mm,
And just below the other guys, I think I would. I was really not sure. I think I probably would prefer to watch the other guys than this. I think. Yeah, there's more comedy in the
okay.
other guys. I did enjoy it as a film. I mean, it's hard because Wedding Singer's got so much good 80s music in it. So it really
Yeah.
did. That
Yeah.
it really hurt me to put that low. But you know,
Do you really
that's
wanna
yeah.
hurt me?
Yeah, exactly. It
Uh,
really did hurt. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's where it was.
Nice, nice. Wow,
Mm,
it's, that okay section's getting, a bit
mm,
bigger. It's had a couple
yeah.
in there recently, so,
Well, you know,
uh
on the when we redo the when we do our bonus episode, some of them might maybe that bad section might be getting expanded. Who knows?
I think only films can move out of the bad section. I think that's what we should do. Wow.
Mm.
Uh, awesome.
Right.
Well, there we go then. Halfway through the
Yeah.
list, even though we're on 51. No, I mean
Yeah.
number 50 is already taken. So in the parallel universe, we do know what number 50 is.
Yeah.
But
Which
yeah,
yeah.
for next week, the old number 50, which is no longer
Yeah.
the current number 50. What came first, the music or the misery? It's a
Yeah.
great opening line of any
Yeah.
movie. So yeah, thanks to Tom Miller for the theme song as ever, and we'll see you next week as we get into the bottom half of the list.